everyone to our Challenging Montessori Practice webinar. And this one we have decided to devote to the environment, a topic which should be absolutely second nature to all of us, something that we should feel 100% comfortable with and be able to talk to the end of the earth. Yet, when one visits many environments, one also wonders what we really understand by the environment, because it is not just about the physical environment. Montessori herself said that her educational system esteems a child's environment so highly that it makes it the center of instruction. She puts emphasis on the child's environment. So it should always be the child that we think about when we prepare the environment and when we organize it in readiness for the child. And of course, when we think about the physical environment, we all think about order, readiness, completeness, all those things that we check for every morning as we prepare the classroom for the children. We also think about the beauty of the classroom and how enticing it is to the child. And there is nothing more enticing than having little bunches of flowers and a smiling face welcoming the child into the environment. The beauty of the individual is really in the way that you prepare the environment for the children. The environment also needs to reflect the children's interests and their needs. And that should be guided by our regular observations of the children. It should be brimming with curiosity and wonder so that the children really want to engage with it. And it should give the children time and space to be, time and space to engage. That it's not for nothing that we have got the 3-hour work cycle or all-day work cycle, as some people are brave enough to implement in their settings. But it's not only the physical environment. The environment also needs to embody the principles of the Montessori approach. And at the heart of those principles is the belief in the child who is not yet there. Therefore, we always need to bear the child in mind, without judgment, without a grudge, always open, wanting to help that child in finding themselves within the environment and the activities that are meaningful to them. We also need to trust the child's capacity to learn and to learn spontaneously and allow them to be guided by their inner guide. We need to trust ourselves to prepare an environment which really engages the children, but also reflects something of us as an individual, because we have to put so much effort into it. And it needs to reflect our actions, relationships, and attitudes towards the children, towards our colleagues, and also towards ourselves. We need to respect each child as a person, as an individual in their own right. We really need to treat them as our very best friend. We need to be humble and open to learning from the children, from their families, from our colleagues, and also from the environment. And if these qualities are in place, we can hope that we promote the child's agency, their belief in themselves, and their capacity to contribute and be able to achieve what they set themselves to achieve. The environment needs to promote collaboration and this emergence of the cohesion of the social unit. It needs to promote kindness and caring and celebrate the child's emerging sense of solidarity. As always, I need to share with you a little anecdote. On Monday evening, our older granddaughter absolutely lost it. And her little sister kept saying, "Mommy, give you a hug. Mommy, give you a hug," thinking, knowing what to suggest that would help her. I was so touched by this 2-year-old's awareness, how her little sister must feel. I was so touched by her capacity to empathize with her little sister. That kind of capacity is in all the children that we work with. We just sometimes don't have enough time to hear it. So yes, please help the children in the emerging sense of solidarity, because it is the solidarity which will help us to change the world, which so needs to be changed. And if all these essentials are in place, we will hopefully create a calm and harmonious environment. We will share with the children the principles of cosmic education, which are interconnectedness, responsibility, and global citizenship. We will plant the seeds of education for peace. And so it is with these ideas that I leave you to discuss some of the questions we have set out in our newsletter. And Gwendolyn very kindly organized us into 3 groups, and each group will be given a set of questions. So the first group will look at the environment and what we understand by it. The second group will look at the role of the adult in the environment. And the third one will be looking at how we ensure that we protect the children's rights and entitlements and value and celebrate their home culture. Once again, we will be guided by our colleagues. The first group will be guided by Antonella and Wendy. The second group will be guided by Suzanne and Hannah. And the third group I will share with Heidi. For the discussion. I don't know if you had super time like we had, but our 40 minutes have vanished very rapidly. We couldn't believe it's time to come back. So shall we start this gathering of the ideas together with the first question? So may I please ask Antonella and Wendy to share their discussions.
Antonella is our spokeslady.
Yes, I will start. I just will start. Well, it was a very interesting discussion, a conversation, and it was really, the time really went very quickly. I think that the focus of the conversation was immediately how to create an environment that meets the needs of children with special needs. And so there were immediately examples by Charlotte and Lucy and Claire and Christine that were bringing their experience of trying to understand what could be adjusted and how to meet the specific interests and sometimes fears that these children were showing. And so even though each child was different, of course, then I have that very, very strong sense of the importance of the adult to try to understand the child, each child, and how to really create an environment that is welcoming and supportive and safe for every child. There was quite a struggle. Everybody that was bringing their examples were saying, we have tried this, we have tried that, there is some change, but because of the changes happen throughout a very long time, if we compare to other children, that there is this sense of, are we doing enough? What happens to the other children? So I got this importance of a really passion in trying to find something that would really meet the needs of these children. Wendy, do you want to add something?
No, I think you've done it really well. I think the only thing we all felt was that the spirit within the environment was so important. It was actually more important than the physical side.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Suzanne and Hannah, your question about the role of the adult.
We actually had a really, really interesting discussion. Hannah, I'll start it off, and then will you jump in and sort of add on your bits as well? What came through from our group was really looking, I think, well, one of the strong points was looking at how the role of the adult is changing, especially now with the pandemic and the children coming back to school, you know, and what has happened there. And I think the overriding spirit was just that COVID has created a need to adapt, to let go of expectations, both your own expectations of the children and managing the differing and changing expectations of the parents. What was quite interesting was we had quite a long discussion about the children having come back, in some cases, really feeling the need to have to socialize with each other, you know, not having had the opportunity to socialize with their own age groups, and how that was being managed by the adults. One of the interesting parts as well was with the creation of the bubbles, you know, that the adults now had more time to spend with the children and eating with the children, so that they really got to, you know, think about their use of language and developing language with the children, but also getting to know the children on potentially a deeper level than what they might have before, and thus being able to cope or to plan better for the children and to follow their interests. And then the last bit that we were just getting into when Wendelin put up our little message to say we had to leave was in terms of looking at creating a favorable environment for the parents now as well, because they can no longer come into the setting and, you know, you know, it has its good points and its not so good points, because as I think it was Debbie that mentioned, you know, they can get on with the teaching thing and the children can get on with the learning thing without having the parents in, and yet you're still needing to find that bridge to create an opportunity for the parents to understand where they're bringing their children to and what their children are doing, and to be able to generate still the trust that makes them want to leave their children with us. Hannah, do you want to add something?
Thanks, Suzanne. You've covered most of it. I think we just talked about these two key areas of the adult being adaptable and ways that we communicate. So that's communicating with children, with the parents, and with other staff members as well, so that we can be free to change routines, especially after COVID, to provide a better environment for the children and also for each other. Yeah, I think that was it really. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you so very much. So our question was about the environment protecting children's rights and entitlements and values, and celebrates their home culture. We have had a really interesting discussion, really probing and recognizing our limitations. However, Heidi has asked the most probing questions, and I would like her to share one of the questions, because it is absolutely at the heart of our discussion today and something that should engage all of us, and maybe we will return to it in another discussion. Heidi, would you like to say it? You said it so beautifully.
I'll try. I can't remember exactly the words I used, but what provoked me, or what Barbara's blog provoked me to think about, was that Montessori spoke so often about normalization being the most important result of all our work. And I'm wondering if that normalization and what we're expecting as adults in terms of normalization, I wonder if that shouldn't maybe shift, or whether we need to maybe look at normalization maybe through a different lens, or just find a way where we can look at the needs of the child, perhaps more related to their cultural needs, their the values that we want to instill in children. Because normalization often comes across as a very academic thing, you know, getting the children to concentrate so they can do their work and they can work with the material and do, you know, activities. But that social and emotional aspect of the child and the development of value and culture needs to also be acknowledged. And I think, yeah, that was something that came across in further discussion that we had, again, with staff members valuing each other's cultures and giving space for each other's cultures, as one example. Yeah, so that was my thought.
I hope that you agree that this is a really challenging question for all of us, something that we need to grapple with as we go along, what we really understand by normalization. And is the normalization only about concentration, or is it about much more? Is it about acceptance of the child for who they are, for the culture they have brought to us? We have also been very fortunate to have Liska and Calypso with us, who so aptly shared their experience of being different to the most of the children in their classroom, and how they have bridged the difference and how they have made the difference living experience for the children. And they said they did it through stories. And I think that idea of personal stories that we share about ourselves, about our cultures, bring authenticity to the children and allow the children to ask lots and lots of questions and be themselves. So it provides for honest discussion between the children and the teachers. And I thought that was really important, and it resonated again with the webinar which was given by Helen Langer, where she talked so much about our own stories and what they mean to children, and the stories of the children's home lives and their cultures can also be brought into the classroom. So that would be a very important tool for experiences. Like the first group, we explored working with children with special needs and what it means to give them an agency, what it means for them to be heard for who they are, not whom we would like them to be. We talked about the importance of language, the importance of home language, and how children often bridge the difference by using each other's language, not often understanding what it means, but to bring them together and sometimes to make them laugh. And I think that laughter is a very wonderful tool when we are trying to grapple with some of the difficulties of our relationships. So I really, really loved that. Have I forgotten something? What do you think?
No, Barbara, all good.
Good, thank you. And Heidi, again, in her very wise and measured approach to all questions, has reminded us that perhaps we should be thinking a little bit more about our cosmic task when we consider the children's sense of belonging and being in the classroom. And, you know, we talk so little about the cosmic task that each one of us has, which each one of us is allowed to contribute to the community and to the world. And perhaps through the articulation of the importance of the cosmic task, we would bring a little bit more equity into our classrooms, a little bit more understanding of who we are, what we stand for, and how we contribute, because each one of us has a contribution to make, irrespective how valued it is by society. And during COVID, we have come to realize that the people who delivered our letters, the people who cleaned our rubbish bins, the people who allowed our life to be normal, were far more important than the bankers in the city. So anyway, these are the thoughts for today. I very much appreciate all your efforts in expressing your ideas about the environment. And I'm glad we have been able to explore the thoughts of the environment being far more than just beautiful or orderly. It is often very chaotic. It is often very messy. It is often very challenging for all of us. But it is the tool which we have to share our values with the children. And we need to continue to search for the answers to make the learning meaningful and the experiencing memorable for the children who come to our classrooms. So thank you very much indeed, everybody.